With the first pick, welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Check out Stadium Rant on our YouTube and all social media platforms for tons of great content. I am your host, Dan Baker, along with the rest of the Fantasy Rant crew, Mason Beck, Lee Cook, and Evan Gooding. We got a fun one cooked up for y'all today. We are going to be pairing the host that we disagree with the most, and we are going to be drafting teams together. So me and Evan classically butt heads, throughout the year, different strategies in all sorts of leagues. And then Lee and Mason, you guys have heard it if you've been watching the podcast. They get at each other a little bit here. So it's going to be interesting.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, never once have you said anything negative.
Nothing but love here. Nothing but love.
So, yeah, we are joining each other's squads. We're going to be seeing how we differ, if we can talk through these picks, find one player that we both agree on. And then on top of it, if the opposing team cannot decide between the two players, then the opposing team gets to choose between those two players for that team. So if me and Evan are arguing over the first pick, you guys get to choose which of the two we're arguing between. We've all talked before the podcast. We've been drinking a little bit tonight too, so could get a little chippy. Make sure you stay tuned for all the madness to unfold.
So real quick, we're going to restrict the other team to only the two that those two wanted.
Yeah, I don't think we should be able to be like, you didn't decide, so now you get Michael.
I agree. That should be the case.
I mean, I'd like to keep it on screen, but at least I think it's a little more spicy if you can. At least I think it makes the urges. Anybody that's on the screen.
I'm open to it if we make it that they have to be within.
That picks round ADP. Yeah. I agree.
Got to be close.
There has to be a limit.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because I know if there's no limit,
right,
one of y'all is going to be taking advantage of this.
I like it. So we can go within 12 picks of the ADP. Let's get the board on the screen. We got Lee in the 5th spot. Evan, put yourself on auto.
I believe it should be on auto.
It reset for some reason.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm at auto.
All right. So Lee and Mason are in the 5th spot. Me and Evan are in the 6th spot. And then our CEO, Tyler, joined. He's going to be in the 7th spot here. After we are done, we are going to be throwing the results in Twitter. Make sure you go and vote for your favorite team. It is just going to be Mason and Evan, and then Lee and Mason and Lee and me and Evan, because it's a civil war. This is about Fantasy Rant right now. We got to see who's going to come out on top. Without further ado, let's get. Oh, it's also a redraft league, full PPR, 1 QB, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex, 6 bench. Let's get it going. All right.
Oh,
Just happened.
Yeah, I was like, what was happening?
Ridiculous. Top of the board, but overall,
CMC.
Pretty realistic that these would be the first 4, maybe not Jefferson.
Just not in that order is the surprising thing.
Yeah, the order is weird, but, it's random. At this point, it doesn't affect you much. Probably would have been between Chase, Jefferson, Robinson, ARSB.
Mason and I huddled a little bit. We feel like Jamar Chase is kind of the obvious pick here. Amon-Ra would be the other pick. I feel like you got to go with a wide receiver in a full point PPR in this spot. We just like Joe Burrow more than Jared Goff. So we're going to go Jamar Chase with the first pick.
Yeah, we did kind of talk about this. And obviously, I like Amon-Ra a lot more. But, just there's a lot of uncertainty with what T. Higgins is really going to be doing this season. And so Chase probably could honestly – it is more likely that he can produce wide receiver 1 numbers than Amon-Ra can. Amon-Ra has one of the best floors in the league, and that's why I'm super big on him, just because of the floors. But just the ceiling that Jamar Chase could have this year with the fully healthy Burrow, we got to take Chase.
All right. So on the board for us, Evan, we got realistically the names that I'm looking at are Bijan and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So kind of, big. It'll depend
AJ
on.
Brown kind of sneaks in there for me. The conversation about AJ Brown kind of sneaks in there for me a little bit. But I'm definitely more confident than you guys. If you were all in on AJ Brown and wanted him, I would be like, all right, you know what, that's enough for me, and I'd go for it. But nope. It's got to be one of these two, Bijan and Amon-Ra. Ooh, I have been an Amon-Ra truther since I drafted him, and he drafted him as a rookie. Mason, I know you have too, so we've both appreciated him throughout his career. Dan, I'm cool with either of these guys, but I would go Amon-Ra here.
Okay, so I love Amon-Ra. I would not, I'm never going to be mad about having him on my roster. The one thing I'll say is I do think there are better wide receivers in the second and third than there are running backs. Mm-hmm. So if we end up taking a wide receiver here, likely that we're going to go a 0 RB approach. I'd be fine with going a hero RB approach and taking Bijan and then trying to get some guys on the way back. What do you think about that?
It's almost like you've seen me draft before because I love going hero RB. So it's not hard to convince me to do that. Let's do it.
All right. I like it. Bijan on the board. Tyler's going to be up next. Glad to see that green dot, sir. If you're watching, appreciate you. All right.
You're definitely getting Marvin Harrison right now if you didn't come to an agreement.
Ooh, Marvin Harrison?
Marvin Harrison. He just knows he's trying to plant the rookies in my head already.
Evan, this is redraft, just to reiterate.
I have to keep that in mind. I do have to keep that in mind.
Saquon lasting to the 2.6 is kind of crazy. But this is about what I expected to be on the board for us. If we look, we're not going QB or tight end this early. Running backs are Devon Achane, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Pacheco. Wide receivers, we got Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs. For me, this would be an easy Devontae Adams.
Yeah, let's go Devontae here for sure. It is redraft, so this is
I like that. All right.
So I'm glad they took Devontae. I was hoping you weren't going to want him, Mason. I wanted no parts of Devontae Adams this early.
I think both of us honestly don't think that Gardner Minshew or O'Connell are the answer. That is something I know we can agree on. That it's just – and Jacoby Myers, I know you guys aren't as high on him, but he is going to feed a little bit into Devontae. And
I think it's going to be a lot of 2 wide receiver sets, a lot of 12 personnel. I do think that Bowers could eat into, both Adams and Jacoby's work a little bit. But every season since 2017, since 2018 on, Devontae Adams has averaged 10 targets per game, no matter what. And I do think Minshew is an upgrade from what he had last year in O'Connell. So I like Adams. Minshew fed Pittman. I think that Adams is a much better version of Pittman. So happy to get him here. PPR monster.
Yeah, I love him more than any of the other. There's a bunch of other wide receiver ones on the board, but he's way better than the rest of the wide receiver ones on the board.
Like I said, the end comes fast, so we'll see. He's a guy I'm staying away from in general in redraft at that spot. So, Mason, we got 3.5 minutes. I mean, I don't know if anybody else jumps out at you, but to me, it's Olave, obviously at the top of the list. And when I look down the list, Etienne would be the other person I would consider here. So anybody else jumping out at you?
I mean, my 2 big thoughts are, is this tight end premium? Or is that
no tight end premium?
Okay. Never mind. I was going to say Laporta right here. Could be kind of an option. But just a quick recap. After you guys drafted Bijan, it went Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Puka, Gibbs, Marvin Harrison, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Ayuk, Kyron Williams, Saquon, and Devontae Adams. I was wanting Saquon to fall to us. I would have definitely been happy taking him here, but of course Tyler had to come and snag him. But I don't know. Etienne, I'm not super high on. Obviously he had a great season last year. So I'm not super high on him just because I think there's been a lot of talks where they're trying to get some more support in that backfield. They brought in a lot more receivers where it could take away a lot of receptions from Etienne. So I think I'd be leaning more towards Olave between your 2 guys. I think Olave would be the better one here because we got Jamar Chase already, who is, he's our high floor guy. He's going to get high ceiling, high floor. He's going to get us some big wins. Olave has a very good floor just because the Saints don't really have a ton of other options. So I think he's a solid option. He's the guaranteed number one receiver every single week on that team, maybe besides 1 week of the season. I think Olave is a safe pick. Having Chase and Olave, we got a nice floor, we got a nice ceiling.
And I think there's a clear teardrop at wide receiver after Olave. And I'm okay with any of the third-year guys between Garrett Wilson, Olave, and Drake London. I probably like Drake the most for the ceiling, but Olave probably has the best floor of those three guys. So we're going to go Chris Olave here.
Yeah, let's go Olave. That's definitely what I think. We got a nice floor, a nice ceiling with our first two picks.
All right.
And then after our picks, it went Josh Allen, Kelsey, Laporta, Diggs, Etienne, Mike Evans, HM. I hope I said that right. Josh Jacobs. And then right here, I don't know.
I feel like this is a little early for Derrick Henry. Just my own thoughts. I don't know how you feel about Henry right here as our first running back. I like Pacheco more than Henry this year.
Ooh, interesting take there. I would have to severely disagree with you, but
I wouldn't severely disagree, but I would put Henry just a touch over Pacheco. It's just
I like Henry a little more, but there is a lot of worry for me that Lamar Jackson is going to take away some, of those red zone touchdowns, just because Lamar Jackson's the most elite running quarterback in the league. So there's some worry about that.
Gus got 13 last year.
But I'm not super high on Pacheco either. I mean, Pacheco's going to have a good year. He's a guy who you want starting in your lineup. But they did bring in Amon Bailey, I believe, is it? Am I right about that? And then they brought in that rugby player. They're trying to get a lot more support for that running back field. I would be more comfortable going Derrick Henry.
So let's pivot for a minute. We've got 3 minutes. So let's say we don't go running back here. I don't mind going trips for receiver, especially in a full point PPR. And if we're looking at a receiver, the two that stand out to me are Nico Collins and Jalen Waddle. I like Waddle in a full point PPR, especially with a bounce back. A little bit less crowded of a wide receiver room there. I would be okay with either one of those guys, but I would lean Waddle. So like between those, I would lean Pacheco and I would lean Waddle.
I'm kind of leaning towards, if we go receiver, going DJ Moore, just because we got Olave, who's got a nice floor. Chase is going to get us those winning weeks, and we could go DJ Moore as well, just because Caleb Williams is pretty good with the long ball, and we know DJ Moore is going to get some pretty big weeks. But I know we both aren't super high because we think Odunze is going to have a good rookie season.
I'm a little scared. Yeah, I mean, just that we don't know what Keenan Allen has left. The rookie quarterback combination there, I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty. And Nico, I am a little scared with Diggs, Tank. Who's going to break out as the number one guy? That's why I kind of lean Waddle in that spot, because he's guaranteed the 2 spot for a pretty high-powered offense.
Don't do it.
Honestly, I'll say Waddle. Waddle had a bad year last year, a lot of injuries to deal with. I don't think Tyreek's going to put up as much numbers as he did last year. I mean, Tyreek's still going to have a great year. Don't get me wrong about that. But Waddle's definitely going to have an improvement. I think he finished as wide receiver like 35. There's no way that Waddle does that again. I think it was just a big injury-ridden year. Having a guy who can have that really high ceiling when we got Olave, who's got a nice floor, and then Chase, who's got a nice floor and a nice ceiling. I think that would be a solid 1 through 3 receivers, having Chase, Olave, and Waddle. So let's go Waddle.
Yeah, if you guys didn't take Waddle, it was going to be a big discussion between me and Evan. I definitely wanted Waddle right there. And Mason, you hit the nail on the head. Definitely injury-ridden season that took him back. last year he only missed 3 full games, but he played 8 games under a 70% snap share. In his first 2 seasons combined, he only had 5 games where he played under 70% snap share. So those real injuries really kept nagging him throughout the year. You would see him leave the field and then come right back.
And I mean, he's clearly the number 2 receiving option there. I mean, there's really 100%. Not a threat to that.
Right. I mean, OBJ, some basics out there are going to think that he's going to take away a lot from him. That was the other thing, though. I'll pull it up, but the wide receiver 3 for the team, for the Dolphins the last few years, I don't think they've topped over 50. It might have even been targets, like 50 targets. They just really don't use their wide receiver 3 that frequently. And I mean, I would like to see Malik Washington take a step up over Odell Beckham, but that's not realistic. I'm just a big fan. All right. Well, my my teammate
is here. Your teammate is here. He just has a barking dog. Chihuahuas
are
great.
I mean, so realistically, the only name that I'm looking at that's not Derrick Henry would have been Pacheco or Deebo Samuel. I do think that Derrick Henry is like the safest pick here and still has a ton of upside week to week with all the, touchdown red zone usage.
Yeah, I love the Henry pick here. I mean, I've been preaching it in a couple other episodes as well, but he's just got so much potential in this offense. Like Tennessee has never really been a high-powered offense, so I'm excited to see what he does here.
Yeah. I was just doing a write-up for Zay Flowers, and in that, you got to talk a little bit about like the Ravens' offensive philosophy. The Ravens have led the NFL in rush attempts 2 out of the 3 last. I think it was 3 out of the 4 last seasons, and Derrick Henry has been the leading rusher in the league 4 out of the 5 last years. They're gonna run the hell out of the ball. They're just gonna pound it over and over again. Definitely Lamar will take a little bit away, but I do think he's going to open up a lot of opportunities too. You know, this RPO is going to be impossible to stop.
But yeah, after you guys took Henry, it went Malik Neighbors, Collins, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Hurts, Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Kupp, Pacheco, McBride, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes. Tyler came back and took James Cook, which I knew he was going to because he loves his James Cook. And it's right back to you guys.
All right, Evan. So we are back on the clock.
Yes, we are.
QBs went very early in this one. Not that I was really eyeing too many of them anyways this early, but Allen, Hurts, Jackson, Stroud, Mahomes, all off the board. For tight ends, we got Andrews, Kincaid, Kyle Pitts. And other than Lee, there's 2 teams on the wraparound that don't have a tight end. So we could try to play the ADP game, see if one of those guys get back around to us, Andrews or Kincaid. All right. I mean, my pick is clear. He's at the top of the board right now. Don't know. He's never making it to the 4th round.
Yeah.
And should Brandon Ayuk be traded, he is going to eat. That's Deebo Samuel. What do you think about that? Anybody else catching your eye here?
Yeah, DK Metcalf is catching my eye here as well. I mean, like I preach that I just like grabbing wide receiver 1s on teams, and I think that he's an elite wide receiver 1 on a lot of other teams too. But he's not necessarily elite on this offense with such a crowded wide receiver room. So that's why his ADP is falling a little bit. But I think that he could have a great season. I mean, what's he being drafted at right now as a wide receiver? What? I think he's finished better than a lot of these guys that have been drafted already.
Let me check the ADPs really quick. I got it up. That is 2023. So 2024 for DK Metcalf. Fantasy Pros has him as 35th overall and the wide receiver 22. We are way past the 35th pick right now. I do think in most sleeper drafts that I've been doing, DK does make it to at least the early 4th. Deebo never makes it this far. I would personally take Deebo, even though it's a bit boom or bust. He is a good pairing with Devontae Adams. It's a bit more consistent.
I don't know if it's the fact that like that they added Pearsall and now there's so many weapons on this offense that like shoot,
It's
like
fair.
if Pearsall's actually a thing. I don't know who to trust on this offense. So Debo seems a little bit more consistent to me. And looking at his past 4 years, he's placed 7th, 14th, 16th, 21st. These are all well above his current ADP where he's currently being drafted. And I don't see him. Do you see him going down this year?
I don't see him going down. I do think that he had a bad year last year overall. It was disappointing on a week-to-week basis. Let me look it up really quick. But DK didn't have that. He's a big downfield threat. He's fast. He's tall. He's strong. But last year he did not have that ceiling that you draft him to have. So let's see here. Sleeper, if you're listening, please put how the mobile app does it with the wide receiver finishes, the positional finishes on the desktop version.
Yes.
But yeah, DK had 1 week.
They're all the way on the bottom, so you just got to scroll past the game log.
But no, yeah, that's just for the season though. I'm looking like game by game because I'm talking about like the week to week.
Oh yes, yeah. No, they haven't. Yeah, they need to add that.
45 seconds, guys.
Yep.
So Metcalf was the wide receiver 1 once and a wide receiver 1 other time. Other than that, purely wide receiver 2, mostly wide receiver 3 finishes. I'll settle. I'll take DK. I'm not mad about it. I would take Debo, and I feel like they are about to lock in Debo right now, which I don't love.
I'm fine with them locking in Debo. They already have 3 wide receivers, so let's see them grab a running back here.
So we've been texting. We know Andrews is our guy who we're thinking right here, but Debo in the 4th round is not bad. If you say no to Debo, I will agree just because the inconsistency. I think it'd be better to lock down that tight end position. It's up to you, Debo or Andrews are my 2 picks right here. Because I would take Debo no matter what, but we already got 3 solid wide receivers. So either one of those guys, that's who I'm taking. It's up to you.
The ADP is tempting. I mean, at times it's hard not to go ADP. I think if it's a half-point PPR, I would smash Debo here. A full point, I feel like, brings him down a notch just in comparison. He's never going to be your 90 to 100 catches a season guy, but he does add a lot in the run game. It's a tough one, man. I definitely did not see him coming back to us right here. But for me, as much as we could go super strength, there's still a lot of good wide receivers where we can build depth. And I feel like getting Mark Andrews here, a top 3 tight end, diversifying a little bit. I think Mark Andrews is the way we should go.
I mean, I agree. He might not finish as top 3, but he's guaranteed top 6, 7 tight ends. And to lock that down with the solid wide receiver room we have, I think Andrews is a smart pick.
I mean, if he's healthy, if he plays 16 games, I think he's almost an immortal lock to be a top 3 guy.
If he can make it to playoffs, we'll be happy,
And we discussed this a little bit. It did kind of fall how I was hoping. And we're agreeing way too much here. I don't know what's going on, but Kenneth Walker.
It's kind of crazy.
Kenneth Walker.
I think we're just dead set on not having the other team pick for us. So we're like, all right, something's better than nothing. I'm not letting Lee and Mason decide who we're taking.
So it went Debo, Rashad White, George Pickens, Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Zay Flowers, Kincaid after us. And at this point, we definitely need to, strengthen up at running back. And the top options there are Walker, Kamara, Aaron Jones, and I think we both kind of agree Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to have a rebound year. I mean, he still had a solid, good year last year, but I think that Walker's definitely going to, he has a great floor. He might not necessarily have the greatest ceiling anymore, but I think just he's got a nice floor to add on to the guys we have. So I agree with Walker should be our pick here.
Yeah, I mean, Kamara is freaking 29, Aaron Jones is 28, or maybe vice versa. I get scared of running backs at that point, even in redraft. Kenneth Walker's only 23. He's going to be the vocal point of that offense. Kenneth Walker it is.
I agree. I mean, age 28 is when you start to see running backs go down. And I mean, Aaron Jones with 2 injury concern, that offense could be a little shaky. Moving to the Vikings, not having, it's going to be between Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy. There's no certainty that he will be able to get the touchdowns. And then just Kamara, this could be Kamara's last. Kamara could have a good year, but this might be his last year of solid production. And not even that. I mean, last year could have been, and Kamara only did so good as he did last year because there were so many checkdowns to him.
Yeah. He was a volume guy on checkdowns. His efficiency was at an all-time low.
Yeah. I think Walker was a good pick.
All right, so up left, we have Anthony Richardson at QB. That'd be the only person I'd even really consider at this point. Running back, they just kind of went through them. Kamara Jones, James Conner, all older guys. At wide receiver, there's T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, Romo Dunze, and Terry McLaurin. And tight end, after Kincaid went to Team 4, which, if this is a real draft, that absolutely happened. If a team's taking Josh Allen in the 2nd round and Kincaid's there in the 5th, that's a lock. So did go off the board. Was really hoping Kincaid would fall to us there. That would have been a smash pick. Personally, Evan, I'm leaning towards Amari Cooper of the bunch. I think that he showed chemistry with Deshaun, and he's the only one that can say that. It just did the Amari Cooper write-up not too long ago, and his 17-game pace with Deshaun Watson in the fully healthy games. There was one game where Watson played like 13% snaps. But in his fully healthy games, 92% of snaps or more for Watson, Amari Cooper was on a 17-game pace of 95 receptions, 1,632 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Not likely to keep up quite at that pace, but if you can even put up 80% of that, I'm happy with him being our wide receiver 3 here. I'm not too worried about Jerry Jeudy, definitely not worried about Elijah Moore. David Njoku could take away a little bit, but Nick Chubb's not going to be in the mix for the beginning portion of the season. I think Amari Cooper would be my pick. I think Christian Kirk would be my 2nd pick, if like my backup pick, basically. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I love our floor of like stable positions right now. We got 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, so we can kind of go anywhere with this. I do like stacking wide receivers as well. I also love wide receiver 1s on teams, and Amari Cooper is the clear wide receiver 1 on the Browns. So I love this pick as well. I'm very happy that you are not as not higher on Christian Kirk than you are currently, because I'm not so high on Christian Kirk, and I would have definitely had to fight with you there, and probably would have pivoted to like a Richardson, since you said you were open to that too. I would be open to a Richardson argument here as well.
Okay, yeah. And like I hear what you're saying with Christian Kirk. He does not offer any ceiling. But for a wide receiver 3, he's going to give you at least wide receiver 3 numbers week in and week out. So Ridley and Zay Jones left the team. They vacated exactly 200 targets. Very interesting. I got to bring this up. So Tyler ended up going Aaron Jones in the 5th, James Conner in the 6th. I do think those are going to be some stable guys. But this, like outside of James Cook, you got Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, and James Conner. I don't know how he's not going to be like shit in his pants every week about injuries. Any one of those guys could miss or frequently missed at least 3 or 4 games per season.
That may be why he grabbed an extra one and went 4 RBs.
Right, that's true. At least 2 of them should be available at all times. Yeah. So on the board right now, so after he takes Aaron Jones in the 5th round, it was Alvin Kamara, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Romo Dunze, Kyle Pitts, Christian Kirk, George Kittle, Anthony Richardson, David Montgomery, Terry McLaurin, and then Tyler took James Conner. On the board for us here at the 607. We got Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, At running back, DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, Zamir White. Wide receiver, Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Xavier Worthy, Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown. And then Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers, David Njoku. Personally, I think that there's the most value right now at the running back position.
Swift.
It would be nice. What?
Swift's
at the top of the ADP. This is, I don't know where you stand on this. I know you like.
I like Swift a lot. I like Swift a lot too.
Like Swift a lot. I'm not as big on Swift. I like Zamir White here. I think. Oh, you know what? We have Devontae Adams. That's not in the mix.
Yeah,
we don't have running back wide receivers.
I would take Stevenson over him as well.
Man, I'm not as big on Swift. They obviously got 3 stud wide receivers on the team. They have Cole Kmet and even Gerald Everett's like an athletic tight end that is a solid pass catcher. I don't know how much they're going to need to feed the ball to Swift, and he's not like necessarily a goal line guy. Caleb Williams isn't a check down guy, so I don't see the value in taking him personally.
I mean, this is a guy that's never been below in PPR, never been below running back 21. So, and we're taking him as an RB3 here, and we're taking him in 6th round.
I don't know, man. I would personally be more likely to take someone like even like Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy. There's obviously a lot of risk with Rashee Rice. That being said, we've seen the suspensions and how they play out in the NFL. They typically get punted one season down the road. There's a chance Rashee doesn't even get the court case or the NFL ruling until next season.
I'll pivot again. What about Evan Ingram here? Because I don't really like Rashee. I don't like the direction you were going there.
I like Evan Ingram, and we were messaging in the Slack. I really like Evan Ingram. There's a very high likelihood, knowing Sleeper's ADP, that he does go at the 6-7 turn right now.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, though, we get Evan Ingram in the 7th, which is an amazing value. And there's only one team that we really have to worry about. The bots aren't going to take a second tight end. So, I don't know. I personally think that I would take an upside shot here. We got Adams, Metcalf, and Cooper as our wide receivers. I'd be willing to go with Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice. Those are my top 2.
Man. Yeah, my top 2 would be DeAndre Swift.
This is a reach for sure, but what do you think about Jonathan Brooks?
I would have to. I'm
too much of a reach for you.
DeAndre Swift or Evan Ingram, I think you're planting your flag on a wide receiver. Give me another position. God. Give me another position that you would take somebody.
I don't want a quarterback here. It's too early. I'll roll your way because I don't want the other guys taking our pick. We can go DeAndre Swift. It'll be nice to have some depth. I do think that it's not going to be consistent. I do worry about his upside personally.
I think we could trust him in the flex week to week too. So I think he's great. He's got a great filling guy. We need him as a running back.
I'd rather take a shot on a guy who I think is going to be like vastly outperform his ADP rather than be a couple spots ahead of it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Thank you for settling. I'll keep this in mind later in the draft. The more you settle, this is 2-7 for me. So.
Gotcha. You guys are getting along way too well as well. The compromise here,
that was difficult for me. That was hard.
that was a tough one. I agree.
So I think the obvious pick here, Mason, and I'll see if you're thinking anything else. I mean, Joe Burrow. There's a clear teardrop at quarterback after him. You can be scared a little bit of a quarterback that doesn't run much, but he is an elite talent. He was injured last year. And the fact that we have Jamar Chase already and we can secure that stack, I still feel like there's plenty of running back depth. We can add receiver depth. I like the idea of taking Burrow, and nobody else on the board really stands out to me as somebody that I feel like we should take over here.
I mean, I like the Burrow point just because, the stack, it does make a lot of sense. But, Brock Purdy's got one of the safest floors in the league just because the team around him. I think we can maybe wait to that and then Ramondre Stevenson, I think, could have a big rebound season. There's nobody else on that team. That's kind of my other thing. I get the Burrow if you can kind of persuade me a little more to do Burrow. Instead of waiting for Purdy, I could go there. But here, maybe just because we're so heavy at every other position besides quarterback and running back, Ramondre does kind of catch my eye.
For me, the offense is just so bad. Obviously, they should be better. But I still feel like Antonio Gibson's coming in and taking some of the passing work, which is really what's made Ramondre a solid or above average running back. And when I look down at average draft position and guys who we expect to be there at our next pick, I just see a couple of running backs, honestly, that I would take over Ramondre right now. I guess it's all auto picks, so I can say those guys. I would take Najee Harris over Ramondre. I would take Zamir White over Ramondre. I would probably even take Raheem Mostert over Ramondre. To me, the difference between those guys and Ramondre versus, dropping down in Dak could have another great year, but it's very likely that's the best fantasy season he will ever have. Kyler Murray, I know he's kind of the hotness. You hear a lot of fantasy analysts talking Kyler Murray up. I'll be honest, I'm not sure Kyler Murray is a good NFL quarterback. He does give you the running upside. There's something about him. Maybe it's just because he's a teeny tiny guy, not just injuries. I'm not sure how good Kyler Murray is. So to me, Joe Burrow is the last elite quarterback. Purdy is good, but he had record-setting efficiency last year. You have to expect some regression there. We don't know what's going to happen with Ayuk. I don't know that will affect Purdy that much. I feel like if we're looking for a guy who could have that 40 passing touchdown season, Burrow's the last one on the board that could do it.
That's very fair to say. I think there's a lot of running backs there that are comparable to what Ramondre. I think Ramondre has a little more upside, but not as high of a floor. And you are right. Joe Burrow is that guy that could definitely, on a team like this, get us that winning season. So, I think maybe I think Burrow probably would be a good choice here. Just that stack is, it is a good stack, and you made a good point. He does have a lot of more upside. Kyler is kind of comparable for the upside, but the team around him is not that great. So, let's go.
If we're talking Purdy, Burrow, I think the other thing that Burrow's advantage in fantasy is his defense is quite a bit worse than San Francisco's, so he's going to have to throw the ball more. He doesn't have Christian McCaffrey back there. We don't know what that run game is going to look like. This is going to be a Joe Burrow make-or-break season.
Yeah, that's true. I'd say let's go Burrow. We got 10 seconds, so let's take Burrow.
I was going to be as nice as you guys were. I was not going to let you know, and I was very much hoping to make that pick for you guys. Ooh, man, so close. All right, Evan. Oh, nope, they're back.
It's back to us. And now I think we got to really be looking running back. After us, it went Ramondre, Rashee Rice, Godwin, Jaden Reed, Dak, Najee Harris, Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy. Looking at running backs.
I think it's Zamir White for me. If we're looking solely running back, I'm scared of Pollard. I still think he's going to be I don't even know he's going to be 1B. I think he's going to be running back 2. I think that's Spears' backfield. And to me, so it's between Mostert and Zamir White if we're looking running back. And the age scares me a little bit. I don't necessarily want to stack Mostert with Waddle. So I would lean Zamir White here.
It depends. Do you want to go running back heavy later in the draft or no?
I'll tell you, I don't hate that, honestly.
Because I'm thinking if we go running back heavy later, we might take Chubb.
I'll tell you what, I don't, and this is maybe a little spiteful. I don't hate taking Evan Ingram right here.
In a non-tight end premium league,
go for it, man.
That'll
win you a poll.
Yeah.
In a real life scenario, because I do love to trade so much, and you look at across the board, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams without a tight end. There's a clear tier break after. I mean, maybe Njoku, but there's not a lot of elite tight ends. I don't know that we'll do it here, but in a real life scenario, and I don't like going. I certainly wouldn't like going 3 onesie positions in the first 6. But
Right.
if you believe in Evan Ingram, maybe you trade Mark Andrews, he's going to have the better trade return, and you draft Ingram to be your tight end here.
That
Yeah,
could
but
work.
I'm looking at it right now. Evan Ingram, although he finished as tight end 2, he still had, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 or 6 weeks where he didn't even produce 10 points, which, tight end position is a little more shaky. So if we didn't have Andrews, I would slam this pick right here. And that's just the thing. I think. Do you think Pollard's going to have 5 or 6 weeks where he fails to produce 10 points?
Yeah, Pollard was in a perfect scenario last year. His inefficiency at the goal line specifically in that offense last year is what really scares me. I don't know how much Will Levis is going to be dumping the ball off, and if he's not catching 50 balls, I just don't see the value for Pollard in this Tennessee offense. They have improved the offensive line. They brought in the son of a famed offensive line coach. Maybe they're just going to be super run heavy, but the money to Calvin Ridley, I don't know that I see that. I think Zamir White would be the pick for me, and I think it's a little risky. I don't hate Mostert either, but again, I don't necessarily want that Miami stack. If I am going to stack an offense, running back and receiver, Miami would be one of the ones I would do it with.
I don't know. Just Mostert might get less touches this year just with them bringing in Jalen Wright and, HN being healthy going into the season. If he stays healthy, I think Mostert's usage goes down. And I'm not a huge fan of Zamir White. Just because
Evan's already on it. Seattle Siren. Everyone drank.
Yep, Seattle Sirens. There we go. Got to crack another one.
Looking at our team, we got a lot of between our first 3 receivers, Andrews and Burrow. We got a lot of guys that can produce solid. I think Zamir White could be a solid choice here, just because I think he's at least going to get guaranteed touches every game. I don't think there's anyone else in that backfield who's going to take away too many. So I think Zamir White will offer a decent floor for us.
Its only competition is Alexander Madison, and we saw what Madison looked like last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Zamir White or Chubb just for the upside of Chubb, but yeah, let's go Zamir White. I'm not huge on that, but let's go Zamir. Down
to the last second again, 18 seconds left. I'm messaging Evan like, who are we taking for them if they don't choose? Oh, man. All right. So they end up going Zamir White. I do love Zamir White. I really think that he is going to eat this year.
Wait, real quick. Since we talked about how we like the Zamir White pick, what did you guys think of the Swift pick? Were you guys going to go Swift?
I don't like Swift.
I'm going to debate it, but Burrow did make a lot of sense. I mean, we know needing that second running back, Swift does have a lot of upside. But yeah, like I think Dan was saying it, Caleb Williams is probably not going to dump the ball off. He's going to, in his rookie season, he might, being a rookie, doesn't understand, needs to learn a little more. He might just, instead of dumping it off, take that deep shot because he's got some nice deep threat guys and DJ Moore and, obviously Keenan Allen is just, he's going to get open sometimes. So Swift might not as be much of a check down guy.
The 3, I don't love Stevenson. I probably wouldn't have taken Stevenson over Swift, but I would have taken Najee and Zamir White over Swift if it were me.
Okay. And I'm only wasting time off our clock because me and Dan had already agreed on a pick. We knew who we were going here. Dan, I'll let you take it away.
We took Evan Ingram. The ADP game panned out for us. We knew that only team that needed a guy was the first team. I was interested to see if Lee and Mason would have taken Evan Ingram with the next pick there. I think that would have been risky. Okay, Tyler did the same thing here. Me and Evan were talking about it. We thought that Tyler would take Kyler Murray in the 7th round. but he saw that all of the rest of the body.
I just knew he was I knew Tyler was going to go for Kyler. I knew it. I literally messaged you that. I didn't.
It was a good move too.
I figured he'd wait for it. None of the other autos have a QB back there, so we got a smart CEO back over there.
One of the reasons why I like Sleeper just lays the whole draft board out, makes it very easy to see. Okay, the next 5 teams already have quarterback. You're not going to take quarterback. Still trying to convince. Oh, Jonathan Brooks still there. That is tempting. All right, we could probably. Oh, I was going to say, so the top wide receiver on the board that I would take is Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think he does take the step above Tyler Lockett. However, we got DK.
Yeah, we got DK.
Yeah. So Jonathan Brooks is on the board. I do like Zach Moss personally. Jonathan Brooks is already. It seems like he's going to be ready for training camp. So he's young. He's only got to compete with Chuba Hubbard. I say let's lock him up. I'd rather punt quarterback a little bit further down the road because there's some options here.
Quarterback is our only.
We can kind of talk about it too, since everybody else has one. Jordan Love, we talked about taking in this round. I do think that Brock Purdy will outscore him on the course of the season, and I think that Jaden Daniels is one of the best, the best values in redraft leagues right now.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable waiting and taking quarterback later, grabbing our 4th running back, and then we really don't have to think about running back again. We could take another one later in the draft, but what do you think about Jonathan Brooks?
You know what? He kind of wasn't really on my radar, but you put him on my radar, and now I put more thought into it. And, I love risks. So I know you don't love risks. So I was prepared to go QB here. But now that I don't love risks, you're willing to explore options later on. And you do this actually in normal drafts too. You draft QB late, so I should say.
I don't take on risk in the first 4 rounds or so. I try to go risk adverse, make sure I'm taking guys that are going to deliver on their ADP because those are the building blocks of your team. Yeah. If you miss on one of those guys, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Of all the rookies I love, though, he's probably like one of my least favorite rookies, to be honest. I love a lot of the wide receivers, but
he was my RB3 in this class. Or I'm sorry, he was actually my RB4. I liked Marshawn Lloyd even above Jonathan Brooks, and I would stand by that. If Marshawn Lloyd was drafted to the Panthers and Jonathan Brooks to the Packers, I would like Marshawn Lloyd even more than Jonathan Brooks currently if they swapped. So Jonathan Brooks, though, he's got it made. He's in the system where they're going to run the ball. I do think that we're taking up your time. Why don't you guys talk about your pick here?
Okay. I love Jonathan Brooks for Dynasty. For redraft, I think that's a little early. The injury, you're going to have to stash him.
There's no other – what other running back are you scared of there?
Am I not scared of me?
Name one that you are scared of. Miles Sanders? Chuba Hubbard?
Oh, you're talking about in that – Chuba's going to be the running back for the first probably 4 to 6 weeks at least.
I don't know, man. All the reports come out saying that he's healthy. They took him in the 2nd round.
They always say that, though. The reports always say that they're in the best shape of their life, at this point in the summer.
I hear what you're saying. Everyone's on track to finish early, or to recover early. And we've seen it take a negative effect on, like, Javonte Williams last year. Coming back off the ACL, he didn't look so great. That being said, he's our RB4 right now, and he's in the 8th round. He's a rookie. He's young. If anyone can bounce back, it's going to be a guy this young.
He will eventually, but you're going to have to be patient with him. So I would have in your spot, and if you've been paying attention to the show, you guys know how I feel about this guy. Zach Moss would be my pick here. He would have been my pick over Jonathan Brooks. We can't take Zach Moss because we have Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So we're not going to go with a super Bengal stack right here.
I would never agree with it because I love Chase Brown.
Chase Brown sucks. Zach Moss is going to be great this year. He's going to score at least 12 touchdowns, at least 10, but probably 12. He's going double-figure touchdowns. So we can't take him. It's too heavy on the Cincinnati offense. For me, it's really between 2 other guys, and they're a little bit further down. Jaylen Warren is a guy I don't own much of. I've never owned much of. I still like Najee being the guy at the goal line. I have trouble taking an RB2 that's not going to get any goal line work. However, in a full-point PPR, we've got a new offense. God help us. We got Arthur Smith in there, so kind of scared about trusting him. But he caught 61 balls on 74 targets last season. Deontay Johnson is gone. We don't know how many targets Freiermuth is going to get. It's really all George Pickens. The rookie wide receivers take a little while generally in Pittsburgh. They don't normally throw them right out. Van Jefferson is probably the wide receiver 2 to start the season. I mean, I could see a world where Jaylen Warren is the number 2 target in that passing offense. Tajay Spears is the other guy I would look at here, but I'm not going to make a big argument for him. Kind of my argument against Pollard. I think Jaylen Warren, because of the work in the passing game and being a full-point PPR, Jaylen Warren would be my pick here, Mason. I don't know where you're looking.
I mean, Warren's not a bad pick because if we look at last year, Wilson did check down a lot to running backs, and obviously different offense, different team. It's going to be different. But my other one is Eckler, just because you got rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels there. There's not really any proven receivers there besides Terry McLaurin. Zach Ertz is there, who could be kind of a safety valve for Jaden Daniels. But Eckler's just been a lead in the passing game in the past. Obviously, last year was bad. But I think that we could see a lot of checkdowns from a rookie quarterback to Eckler. I do see your point, and I would lean between Eckler and Warren more. I mean, just honestly, Tajay Spears could get a lot of receptions, but they did bring in Calvin Ridley, him and DeAndre Hopkins and Tyler Boyd. There's going to be a lot more other targets. So I would say Eckler or Warren just because I think they're going to get a lot more receptions. We got 10 seconds. I would lean more towards Eckler, but if you want to take Warren, I'm not upset about it.
All right, we're going to go Warren. I just, as a Washington fan, and I could be wrong, Eckler's only value is going to be through the passing game, and he caught less passes last year than Warren. I think it's Brian Robinson's backfield.
All right. Well, after us, it went Jameson Williams, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Jake Ferguson, Devin Singletary, JSN, Eckler, who if Eckler came back to us, I was going to say we definitely take him. And then Njoku. After that, I think we've been spending too much on – and obviously we need a little more RB support. If we want to go RB again here, I would say Tajay. I would go Spears. If not, I would say Courtland Sutton, just because he's the only proven receiver on that team. And he's not going to win us weeks, but I think he's got a good floor paired with everyone else we have. I think Sutton would provide a good, in the, what are we in, the 9th round, a wide receiver 1, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me because Zach Moss is still sitting there, and I don't want the Super Bengal stack, but I feel like he is a great value at this point in the draft. But I'd be okay with Tajay Spears to really – so that makes our backfield, Zamir White, Jaylen Warren, Tajay, and who was the first running back we took? Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind taking, Spears here and just, realistically looking at who we're starting as our RB2 every week between Zamir White, Jaylen Warren, and Tajay Spears. It would be like, who are they playing against? That I think that could be a solid 3 running backs that we kind of switch out week to week. We really watch the matchup, watch how the season goes, who is going to be our true RB2. So I would not mind taking Spears here, but I am kind of like Sutton, just because Sutton is a wide receiver 1. He's the guaranteed wide receiver 1 on this team. Not on our team, but on the Broncos.
At this point, I feel pretty good about our floor at wide receiver with the 3. And I've been a little bit anti this guy, but if we're going receiver and looking at the way the draft is probably going to come back to us, I don't mind going receiver here. I like some of the running backs likely to come back. Honestly, I think Christian Watson or Keon Coleman provide a little bit higher ceiling. I think Sutton's more of a floor play, and I like our top 3 wide receivers to kind of set that floor. I think I lean.
I'm anti-Watson. I'm anti-Watson just because there's too much competition there. I mean, there's 4 guys there, and nobody's really emerged as the wide receiver 1 or 2. So
if he's healthy, he's the one. But the health is the question for him.
I would more lean Coleman out of those 2, but yeah, I would lean Coleman or Spears here. Or let's see what Evan and Dan need, so we can maybe take what they want.
I love you that you guys are so focused on our team.
They're looking for a wide receiver, it looks like. And I know Evan really likes his rookies, so he wants Keon Coleman. So,
we just loved Keon as we were talking about him early on, right? Yeah,
we are actually talking about Keon Coleman. So,
yeah, we are.
I don't know. I'd say Coleman or Spears. That's what I would more lean to off of what we've been talking about. So, you take the pick, blind. Just you do it. It's all on you, Lee. I'm leaving it up to you.
The audio audience is thinking
Sorry,
hard.
Sorry, I was in deep contemplation there. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna not take the snipe, and we're gonna go to Tajay Spears and solidify the running back.
That's what I was more leaning towards, because I think that establishes a good floor for our running backs.
And they took Zach Moss.
Yeah,
we did take Zach Moss.
So quick.
We were talking about
Keon Coleman, and we were saying Keon Coleman if they don't take Zach Moss.
Yeah, dude.
If Moss is there, we're taking him. The Bengals, they have just they've been fine with Joe Mixon's very average yards per carry. They dump the ball off to him. Zach Moss is like the Walmart version of Joe Mixon. He's gonna get fed while Jonathan Brooks, continues to build toward full health. Zach Moss can step in for that role. Right now, I would say if Amari Cooper does not have the matchup, I would start our 4 running backs at RB and flex, and Moss probably for the front half of the year. And then as we get into the latter half, if Moss proves himself, it would be Brooks or Moss, whoever has the matchup, or Swift. But right now we have a really solid stable of running backs, and there's some late round wide receivers that I like a lot.
It's Chase Brown season. That's just I can't take Moss.
Get behind that.
I have been so hard on this point that it's Chase Brown. I refuse to take Zach Moss because I don't want to have to root for Zach Moss at all this season.
Yeah, he was just so surprised. There's a guy that drafted him, and he drafted him so late, and he just held on to him. Steve, in our league, Dan, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and
he's just always.
How did he even happen? How did he even happen? I have no idea. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Zach Moss for so long showed us what he was in Buffalo. Goes to the Colts, doesn't look like he's going to be anything. Jonathan Taylor goes down, he steps in, looks fantastic in that system. Zach Moss is an adequate pass blocker. Adequate pass blocker. I do think that overall. Hold on, Evan, do you see my message? You agree with the pick?
Ooh,
I think we got to go upside here. So we'll talk it out. We're gonna go quarterback. I would very much assume here. Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. My strategy here is taking Jaden Daniels, who has the rushing upside to truly win you weeks, and then we can pair him with a Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, not Baker. One of the Stafford or Rodgers, if all of the rest of the quarterbacks go, and they likely won't all go. So we could probably get Herbert and Lawrence as well.
Dan. Are we really? They were talking about taking Cortland Sutton last round. Are we really going to let them take Cortland Sutton this round as the true wide receiver 1 on this team? Absolutely not. My vote is Cortland Sutton, and I honestly don't have another option for you.
I don't want to say who my late round targets are, but I'm going to message them to you right now. Those are my late round targets that I'm happy taking in a round or 2 later. that I think will have the same.
I think that there's a very significant tier difference from Cortland
Hold
Sutton
on.
to those guys.
If you guys want to hear more of this debate, join us on YouTube. Thank you for everybody in Atlanta that has tuned in. We really appreciate it. Check out the Stadium Rant YouTube. Check out Stadium Rant HQ on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, for the results. All right. We snuck it in right at the hour mark. We did it. We're professional.
That snuck up on me. I did not see that one coming.
We are so professional that Lee has left the building. So we're going to talk this out.
Me and Lee can really get into arguments.
No, we have to take Sutton here. I love the idea of going QB, especially somebody that is
the counter to my argument is that the next 5 teams, team 1 through 5, all have quarterbacks.
Yeah, they all have.
There's 4 of them there. Likely that one of them will drop. Again, Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence on the board right now. Those are fine enough to be streaming quarterbacks to start off your season. But likely, I do think that unless one of them really starts out hot at the beginning of the season, we're going to be streaming at that point. Jaden Daniels is the one guy where I'd say like you can lock him up, and because of the run upside, that's a guy I'm keeping on my roster. I'd go Daniels.
Everybody though, these guys are great floors. There's so many.
I mean, I think Herbert is a top 5 talent in the league. I think that Trevor Lawrence has enough playmakers around him to the point, 3 solid enough pass catchers in the wide receiver core. Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. That's solid. He should do better than he did last year. However, last year was very disappointing, especially through the front half of the season. Herbert, we're relying on a rookie to be the wide receiver 1 or Joshua Palmer to take a step up that we have not seen him do already in a similar situation, and it's going to be more of a run-heavy scheme. Jaden Daniels is that dude. He can win you a week, and I do like the talent around him. That's where I stand, but I'm willing to play the ADP game and take Sutton here.
Let's play the ADP game. Please.
Watch them just auto-draft Jaden Daniels and my life. I don't like sending the wraparound where Lee, Mr. Commander, has 2 options, 2 different picks to take Daniels before us. So I feel like that smirk said it all.
Fuck them. They just took Cortland Sutton, so we should take Jaden Daniels.
So I definitely don't like the idea of taking 2 quarterbacks this early. Again, though, in a real draft, trade bait, and honestly, I'm looking at this, and Romeo Doubs would be my receiver, but I see other receivers later that I like on that same level. I see a running back that I feel pretty good about coming back to me, but we're looking at it. None of these, all these other teams have a quarterback already. They may auto draft their second quarterback, though. For me, Jerome Ford is the guy I want. I don't know if I want to risk it that he'll come back to us. I feel like that gives us a really solid 5-pack of running backs, having not drafted a running back until round 5. I don't know that I want to risk it. I think I want to take Ford here and see what happens on the comeback.
I mean, I like Ford. We haven't drafted a running back or a wide receiver since round 3.
I'm okay with that, though, because we've got our starting 3. I mean, to me, if we look at wide receiver,
you didn't need a wake-up call. That was it.
Okay, hold up. If we draft Ford right here and Jacoby Myers comes back to us, are we going to draft him?
We'll have a very intense discussion about it.
All right, that's enough. Let's
I
go.
mean, what do you feel about Dobbs? I mean, Dobbs is the pick. If we're trying to go,
Dobbs is the pick.
So you're drafting. If you go off ADP, you're drafting Dobbs here as the wide receiver 3 behind Christian Watson, who you said Christian Watson is the most talented. And Jaden Reed, I do think, is better than Dobbs. Do we really think that the Packers are going to produce enough passing volume to draft a wide receiver 3 right here when there's plenty of wide receiver 2s available, potential wide receiver 1s? I mean, there might only be one potential wide receiver.
We look at what he did in the playoffs, and I know that Gabe Davis had a huge playoffs, and then, he didn't fall off the world, but he definitely wasn't as consistent. He had that huge playoff game. But Dobbs was a guy in the playoffs. He was the number 1 target for Love.
But I don't know. I just think Christian Watson, if he is healthy, he definitely will feed into that. Tavion Wicks will. Tucker Kraft, I mean, he had a good rookie tight end season. He's going to improve. I don't know. I'm kind of off the Dobbs train. And
I don't want Lockett. Lockett's too old.
Jacoby Myers, Leggett might have a couple slow weeks, but he could evolve as a wide receiver 1 there. And Jerry,
I don't think he's going to be the 1 over Deontay Johnson, and I don't know if he's going to be the 2 over Old Man Thielen. I don't know, man. Maybe we take Jaden Daniels here and see what comes back to us.
Jaden Daniels will come back to us, so I think we go Ford or Chase Brown here, just because I love Chase Brown, but I will avoid him in this just because of our Cincy stack already.
Ford's a clear starter to me. I don't know how. I think it's going to take Chubb a long time, possibly the entire season, before we ever see Chubb again or see him look like himself. Ford looks like a starting NFL running back, so we're going to go Ford.
Let's do it. No, we're not taking a running back unless it's Trey Sermon in the last round.
Yeah, we're probably not taking another running back, but I feel really good about our 5 running backs. Jaden Daniels did not come back to us. 3 teams went with their second quarterback. We saw Jared Goff go next. We saw Dalton Schultz, then Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, Tyler Lockett, Cole Kmet, Ezekiel Elliott, and Xavier Leggett. Oh, God, I clicked that over.
All right, I'm saying Jacoby Myers, but you know me. I'm a Jacoby Myers enthusiast. I'm going to say him. He's the clear-cut wide receiver 2 there. And Dobbs, I think, does have more upside, but there's just so much competition there. And them bringing in Josh Jacobs, he's going to take some passing plays away. They're probably going to run the ball more with Jacobs there. I see Myers we have 3 solid wide receivers, and I think that just having Jacoby Myers is going to be the guy that gets us, 9 to 10 points at the minimum is good. It's what we kind of need, running potentially after all the running backs we've got. He could be our fourth or fifth flex.
I just don't like. It's not that I don't like Myers. I don't like the quarterback situation. He fell off the earth when Antonio Pierce took over. He was very good in that first 8 weeks. After that, he did not really produce. And again, you did say it. We have 3 really good high-end wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 1 to 2s. I like Dobbs here, man. Maybe he does emerge, but I feel like he's a guy we can fill in for a couple of weeks. And I feel like there's just more upside. And having a safe top 3 wide receivers, I'd rather lean upside here.
What about Darnell Mooney? No.
Hold on. Just a second. We could take Trevor Lawrence right here, have our backup quarterback, and really leave the team behind us in a pickle at quarterback.
Are we in a pickle?
There's a big tier break after Trevor Lawrence.
At this point, do we think Trevor Lawrence is a guy we're keeping throughout the rest of the season anyways? No.
In Dynasty, I totally agree. There's a huge tier drop in Dynasty from here on out.
But Lee,
we're talking redraft.
But Lee, you got to think of this. We got Joe Burrow, who's got all the upside.
We would have a nice little Ingram stack.
There is an injury concern with Joe Burrow, though.
But Baker Mayfield's a nice floor guy that we can take later in the draft.
It's a mock. We're competing against them to have the best team.
All right, fuck them. Let's take Lawrence.
I love it. We're talking about Lawrence, but truly at this point in the draft, we're punting quarterback. Like this, we waited to the 11th round already. Lawrence isn't going to, take the cake. Oh, and Mason, I love Mason leaves now. Evan and I, the only one with strong bladders here, clearly.
Apparently.
I'm old. I got that excuse. I'm old.
Yo, what are you? You're like 2 years older than me.
38 on Friday, my friend.
Typically, I'm the first one out. I'm the first one out for that. So this is I'm having an unusual day.
Hey, that's why I drink bourbon instead of beer, boys.
Yeah, I did. That's why I ripped the shots before this. I did rip shots before this too, so it did.
There you go.
Help. It was a big difference maker.
All right, so I will say at this point in the draft, we have 5 running backs on our team, only 4 wide receivers, tight end, no quarterback, but we are punting quarterback at this point in the draft. That'll be our last 1 or 2 picks here. If it is up to me, I am taking Rashid Shaheed here or potentially Pat Freiermuth. I think Pat Freiermuth has a lot of opportunity and should do well. However, Arthur Smith is there to fuck everything up. And he will. He will.
Cordell Patterson season, maybe.
It's like I was just doing a write-up on London not too long ago. London, with Arthur Smith as the head coach for the Falcons, he did not have a single player, a single wide receiver specifically perform better than wide receiver 36 in his entire time there. They ran the ball at least at the top 5 in the league and threw the ball in the bottom 5 of the league in 2 of the 3 years he was there. In the 1 year he was there, they did throw the ball a decent amount. They were not efficient. That can be attributed to the quarterback, but I'm just saying Arthur Smith is going to be there to mess up any takes that we want to have about what things that make sense are logical and should fall out for George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth. I just don't know if it's going to fall to be true. So right now, realistically, I would be looking at Rashid Shaheed because when I'm looking at players in this tier, I want somebody that when I plug them in, they can win me a week. It's our 5th wide receiver here. Shaheed was top 5 in terms of reception percentage of 20-plus yards. Him and Carr had a surprisingly great connection downfield, while him and Olave had no connection downfield. Don't know why that is. Maybe Shaheed being the wide receiver 3 while Thomas was healthy and wide receiver 2 while he wasn't allowed him some, easier matchups. But I don't want a Romeo Dobbs, a Jerry Jeudy, a Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis doesn't fit that bill, but the rest of the bunch here can't win you a week when you plug them in. So I like Shaheed. I'll bring up one other name. I like Josh Palmer a lot. I think that McConkey is going to be the guy there, and it's going to be peppered with targets. He's not a downfield guy, though, and I think Palmer is. You're the Chargers fan, though. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. We have 1 minute and 15 seconds left.
All right. So I am not big on – I should be bigger on Palmer because I've seen his production, but there's a new system coming in, and they drafted 3 wide receivers. So clearly they don't trust the system that was in place, and they want to establish some new ground. And I think that, Josh Palmer could be a casualty of that. So but if he had excelled more, he was given an opportunity. Like he had opportunities to shine, and he somewhat shined, but he almost like just glimmered instead of like really shined to like really impress me for a system to trust and impress them for a system to trust him. So I'm not the highest on him, and I do love the rookies. I love rookies in general.
20 seconds.
I love the rookies we drafted. Dan, you can side with me. I'm gonna let you take the wheel on this one. It's up to you.
I'm going true upside in my opinion. I am taking Joshua Palmer because I believe in Justin Herbert much more than I believe in Rashid Shaheed.
Hey, if I'm wrong, then the Chargers and the Chargers profit off that's the best case scenario for me. I can't complain.
Right? Truly, though, it's a great scenario for you in this instance. And then on top of it, like the scheme's going to be run heavy. I think that they're going to utilize play action. And after Ladd McConkey, it's just QJ and Palmer downfield. Palmer's already has a connection with Herbert. QJ looked god awful last year. God awful.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to pull up the reception perception again.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it was bad. And I just really don't think there's a world where he does not, at least if he stays healthy for 17 games, I don't think there's a world where Palmer doesn't get at least 90 to 100 targets, most of them being downfield, so probably a lower reception percentage. But when he does catch those balls, he's going to be downfield. He's going to make big plays. If they drafted a guy that wasn't McConkey and they end up going with like Keon Coleman instead or something, I would switch it a little bit. I would say Keon Coleman's more of the downfield threat. I'm not as high on Palmer because they drafted the guy to play that role. But McConkey's going to play the Keenan Allen role to the best of his ability. And if he gives 70% of that and Palmer can be the downfield threat, I'll take Herbert's downfield targets, be them less than Rashid Shaheed with Carr. But Carr sucks. There's going to be regression. Carr didn't connect with Olave, who is a much better wide receiver downfield. So there's bound to be a negative regression with Shaheed coming this season, I think.
New offense, though. I mean, new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, bringing in the San Francisco offense.
Yeah, and no Michael Thomas at all this year, so he's going to start off as the wide receiver too. Shaheed did go. I would have considered him here. The guys on the board, we need to take a quarterback.
Yeah, that's probably what we were.
Even though we have three picks,
in the debate which ones we want to talk about. I know you like Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins has opportunity with the guys around him. We do have Bijan Robinson, so that is banking on us thinking that the Falcons are going to be a very high-scoring offense in general. I more so think that they're going to feed their top guys. I'm more willing to take Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson than Kirk Cousins because of the supporting cast after that bunch. Whereas I do think that Matthew Stafford would be my pick here. Last year they targeted the wide receiver position at 71.7% of their passing attempts. That was the highest in the league by 3.5%. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, both there. DeMarcus Robinson, a red zone monster. Kyron Williams catches a ton out of the backfield. Yes, there's going to be some weeks where he is down. And honestly, this is what we're end up going to be doing. Oh, man, Sleeper. Come on now. So Sleeper's got we got 2 minutes. We're good. Yeah, so Sleeper's got the opening schedule on the mobile app. Let me check that really quick. Because we're streaming anyways. Realistically, we're not keeping any of these guys throughout the year. We want to make sure the beginning of the year is easy. At least the first 2 matchups, Detroit did not repair their secondary enough for me to be worried. Yes, they have a strong front 7, but I don't think that they're much to be worried about. And Arizona in week 2. I would take Stafford here personally.
I mean, yeah, I gotta agree with you. He was what did he finish last year?
Yeah, the only alternative in my mind would be Jahan Dotson, but we kind of squared up our
15th. Yeah, I mean, taking the 15th ranked like QB, we're punting it anyways.
Right. It's their 12th round, and we're likely to take another guy before this draft ends.
In a 1 QB league, in a 12-team league, QB 15 is going to hurt you.
on the course of the season, but we're streaming.
Yeah.
We're not keeping Stafford longer than 2 weeks. He plays San Fran in week 3, so that's
and
a clear.
Stafford has Cup and Puka. Like these guys are, that it's not like a terrible offense.
I mean, it's not a terrible offense, but you got Blake Corum there with Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams ate a lot. We'll see. Another year older as well, but I definitely
injury concerns are what concerns me with Stafford.
With our pick here, I'm thinking Troy Franklin.
It's 2 weeks. Sorry,
I don't like Troy Franklin as a 4th-round pick this early. I
think because the connection between him and Bo Nix, there's going to be that connection already. There's that, and I mean, Denver does not have a solid wide receiver 2. I mean, Sutton is the solid wide receiver 1, but he's not elite by any means. So Franklin, if he has a couple good weeks, he really can evolve into that 1.
So I could see it. I could see some upside there. Again, I mean, it happens a lot of times, those late round, and maybe this is just completely, maybe I'm off, but it feels to me like Tyreek Hill is the exception, and he had off the field issues. But generally, when wide receivers slip further than you think in the draft, they don't end up being those late round receivers that pop. A lot of times it's those gems who weren't projected that high, your Pukas or some of your other guys, your Amon-Ra's, who were never projected that high and have that chip on their shoulder. I'll tell you, I mean, looking at the wide receiver list, I think we got to go wide receiver. Gabe Davis got a 3-year, $39 million deal. There's a lot of vacated targets. We don't know what the rookie's going to be. We know Christian Kirk is the possession receiver between him and Ingram. But we also know Trevor Lawrence loves to throw the ball deep. Did that more than any other quarterback in the league last year. It does give us a secondary stack. I know Gabe Davis is very hot, cold, and didn't have a great season last year, although he did deliver a couple of weeks. But we're not relying on him week in and week out. And I do feel like he's the type of guy who, if we plug him in, he does give us that high ceiling. Obviously, he gives us that 0.0 floor. But maybe he excels in the Jacksonville offense. I lean Gabe Davis here.
I mean, yeah, that is a valid point. I mean, Gabe Davis, right matchup, against a team that gives up a lot of the deep threat. That could be kind of, a week that you plug him in. We got a lot of RBs, that are very flex RBs, and, you could switch them out. And I'm looking at the Jaguars schedule right now. There is actually a lot of their opponents are teams that gave up a lot of points to the receivers last season. Obviously, that changes from season to season, but it doesn't always improve massively. So I would say Gabe Davis, just looking at his schedule right now, he's got 9 weeks that gave up top 12 numbers to wide receivers. Their opponents are teams that gave up top 12 to wide receivers. So I'd say Gabe Davis he could fit into more our roster. I mean, I do like Troy Franklin more because the more consistent upside, but Gabe Davis has the more week to week upside. So I would say Gabe Davis.
All right, let's go, Gabe. Let's see what comes back to us. We got 2 picks left here after this round. It looks like Josh Downs went next. Was that Aaron Rodgers?
That's Cousins.
Did they take 3 quarterbacks?
It went Cousins, Dobbins, Musgrave, Kendre Miller, Troy Franklin, Ty Chandler, Rico Dowdle. And I'm still thinking we sit wide receiver here. And I'm thinking Brandon Cooks.
Okay. I mean, I feel like that's where I kind of thought you were leaning. I like John Dotson here, and I mean it's not just a homer pick, but I could be argued into Brandon Cooks. I think the overall ceiling is higher for Dotson. Cooks did look good in that last run. The Michael Thomas rumors notwithstanding, it's more of a guaranteed passing offense. They have less at running back. Dak Prescott's a proven quarterback. I'm good with Brandon Cooks here.
Yeah, I'm thinking more Brandon. I mean, I think Dotson does have more upside, but I mean, there is a lot of risk there because McLaurin's going to be the guaranteed wide receiver one there. Eckler brought in, we know him as a receiving back. Then we also got Zach Ertz, who's losing some steam, but he's going to get some targets there for sure. Ben Sinnott, they drafted him. He's going to get some targets. Luke McCaffrey could honestly feed into Dotson a little more. I think, I'd rather take a floor here with our last pick going Gabe Davis, a guy who, he's either going to give us 3 points or he's going to give us 20 points. I'd rather take a guy who I think is going to have who's going to have a better floor than Dotson. Dotson definitely could be way better, but he could also do nothing this season.
Yeah, I'm with it.
All right, Evan. So realistically, at this point in the draft, we talked about it. We have 2 picks left. We do need an upside shot at quarterback.
Yep.
That's going to be our last round. There's not a big tier difference between the quarterbacks left. Marshawn Lloyd and Jaleel McLaughlin are the only running backs left that I would consider at all. Marshawn Lloyd, just because LaFleur has talked about using a multi-running back system. We've seen that used even when A.J. Dillon was basically useless. They still split up the carries. And Marshawn Lloyd's going to be much more explosive, has been talked about as so. Jaleel McLaughlin, same type of situation, but the running back room's even a little bit more murkier than it is in Green Bay. The guy that I'm really wanting right now is Jahan Dotson. We talked about it last round. Any other, commander player on our team. And I think we saw enough in year 1. Sucks that it was a little bit injury riddled, but I think we saw enough in year 1 for us to still hold hope that it was just a Bieniemy problem in the scheme. And, a little bit of Sam Howell too mixed in there. He can be a downfield threat. He can work in along the sideline. He does things beyond what his body should do for him in the NFL. Guy's kind of small. He's not insanely fast, but he's pretty fast. I just think that he does enough in the NFL for us to take a shot on him in the 13th round of a redraft league.
Yeah, I mean, Dotson's definitely the floor here, and I'm okay with it if we want to go that direction. I like Lloyd as well. We had the same thought process there. But, man.
If we had a more questionable running back room than wide receiver room, then I would absolutely go Lloyd.
Yeah.
But right now, Adams, Metcalf, Cooper, happy with that as my 1, 2, and 3. But then Sutton and Palmer, it's a little bit questionable as the 4 there. Yeah. I'm happy with taking an upside shot on Dotson because he really could pop off. Who knows? It's Ben Sinnott is the only other competing option, I guess. Austin Eckler, but realistically, how often is Jaden Daniels going to check down? He's a scrambling quarterback.
Yeah,
he's going to run probably 100 times this season.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The only other people I'm looking at are Polk and Roman Wilson.
When you said you're absolutely right, that was me getting permission to take Dawson. So I smashed that right as soon as you said that.
I was going to succeed. I was going to succeed. You let me pick my early picks. I'll let you take some of the late round sleepers, all the way. Yeah, you can.
And you know what? I'm honestly cool with that. I do feel like that's a
good ebb and flow. Good ebb and flow there.
Right? Yeah. Because if you were taking such risky players, and again, what I was saying, the first 4 rounds or so, that I had a strong argument against, then I would have said it. But we pretty much agreed on our first 4 picks. And then after that, we started getting into a little bit of the mix here. But I really do think that our team has balanced out quite well.
Mm-hmm.
I very much about the risk reward opportunity late in drafts, because if they don't hit, you replace them on the waiver wire. we're all savvy enough to go out and find those guys that are going to hit. And we're also those guys that are up at least I am. I'm up at 3 in my one Yahoo league on Wednesday. 3 a.m. alarm set so I can go check the waiver wire dump offs, who was left behind, so I don't have to change my waiver order. Thank God 90% of my leagues are set to fab in like fixed times that are not 3 a.m. anymore. If you haven't changed to sleeper, change to sleeper. And also sleeper, maybe give us some type of endorsement here. We're doing some legwork. But it truly is the app, even though we've complained about the desktop version and whatnot. Like, this is the place to be. You can customize it to what you want, and the draft board is right in front of you. It's right in front of you. You can take in everything you want to. I've been in so many leagues where you have to go and switch to 3-4 different tabs just to view the draft board and then go back to the players, and now you're on auto draft.
Every one of my leagues is on sleeper. I won't join a league not on sleeper anymore.
That's the move. I have still one in Yahoo and one in ESPN, and let me tell you, it's such a pain in the ass to check 11 different leagues in sleeper and then have one league in Yahoo and one league in ESPN. That's dumb as hell. Sleeper's the move for sure. Tyler, are you actually thinking this much, or have you fallen asleep?
He's still green. I was just thinking the same thing.
I'm gonna message him right now.
I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at our team, Mason, and I think we kicked their ass.
I gotta take a look real quick. I'll be back. Dan is the longest. He's got the biggest one, biggest bladder. Dan, he wins.
I guess so. I'm the last man standing.
I think so too, Lee.
Honestly, I think we might be better at every position outside of Bijan. But I mean, I like our depth at running back better. They do got Zach Moss. Though. Zach Moss is good.
We'll review the whole team afterwards. I'll give you my honest opinion. I'll let you know. All right, so Evan's not here. Truly, there's not a ton of upside picks left at quarterback. I do think Will Levis has a nice setup. However, he's not a rushing quarterback. JJ McCarthy's a bit of a rushing quarterback, but without a Justin Jefferson stack or something there to like promote that, I'm not leaning that direction. So I'm going to make our last pick for us. This is not a homer pick. It is literally just this guy runs the ball more than any other guy left. So I will go Deshaun Watson with the 14th pick. Now I am very curious to see what the opening schedule looks like here. Hey, boys, you're up for the last pick.
So I'll tell you right there, I was looking at the quarterbacks. You guys know, Banana Man. I do like Levis. I do own a lot of them. I think you're –
Speaking of Banana Man.
He didn't run a ton last year, but he did show that ability in college. And I think we'll definitely see an uptick. But honestly, for your guys' roster makeup, and really the other guy I would have looked at is Bryce Young. I think he's a guy you could cut pretty easily if he doesn't. But Dave Canales, he turned around Geno Smith. He turned around freaking Baker Mayfield. He seems to be a quarterback whisperer, and they've added a lot of talent around him. They've improved their offensive line, which is a huge part. I do like Bryce Young as a very late-round flyer at quarterback. Now,
so I hear what you're saying, and I'm not like shooting it down or anything, but I don't think that his body or speed can I don't think his speed will put up the numbers that Watson would. I don't think his body will allow him to take the number of chances scrambling that Watson would. And I really don't think that his wide receiver core is better. As much as I like Deontay Johnson, I like him Cooper more. I like Jerry Jeudy more than Adam Thielen. And I think that I'll say Legette's definitely better than Elijah Moore. But then we go to the tight ends, and you got Jatavian Sanders versus David Njoku. Jerome Ford's a better pass catcher. You're saying Jonathan Brooks might not be there early, and we're only looking at the beginning part of the season. So, I don't know. I go Watson with the last pick here. I think that if he played a full season, we would have seen about upper 300, lower 400 rushing yards. So I'll take that with the opportunity at a stack in case that truly does hit. And Washington just comes back and it was a shoulder injury, but yet to be seen. We'll see how it goes. It's the 14th round too. So.
I mean, it is. It's the last pick. I'm out on Watson. I mean, hey, maybe he does turn around, and for your sake, and all the Cleveland Brown fans and the owners that have given him just a giant bag of money, I do kind of, part of me does want him to succeed, and then the other part's just he's an awful human being, and he deserves every bit. I
don't even root for him as a human, but I root for the Browns.
All right, so Mason, we're on the clock. I feel like we could go either direction here. I don't think we have to take a running back. I don't think we have to take a receiver. I think clearly it's one or the other. For me,
someone who I've honestly started liking a lot more this offseason, which he's probably going to be available in only a 14-round draft. I've started liking Tyler Conklin a lot.
In last round, I agree with that.
And, he's impressed a lot in OTAs from what I've seen. When you look at that roster, I mean, Garrett Wilson, obviously he's wide receiver 1. Mike Williams, he's probably going to be hurt at some point. Yeah, he's good, but he's probably going to be hurt. And then you got Malachi Corley, who's a rookie, who is really going to be that short. He's not going to be, a guy that gets much. He's not going to get much down the field throws. I kind of do like Conklin, but if we, Conklin's a guy that we could probably pick up at some week.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And in this style draft, I never want to double up on the onesie positions. I'm going to have a backup quarterback or tight end, but not both. And I do feel like Mark Andrews, if he gets hurt, we're obviously going to be scrambling, but we're going to be week by week. We're going to be streaming position at that point. I did take a peek to see if Likely was still there. I might would have considered Likely as the handcuff, but I don't like doubling up. We got 45 seconds. To me, there's a couple of guys that stand out. I don't mind taking a shot on a rookie here. Ricky Pearsall, we draft him in case something does happen with Ayuk. And if not, if he doesn't have a role within the first few weeks, I feel like he's an easy drop. I also like
Roman Wilson.
I don't mind Roman Wilson. I don't mind Vidal either. I can't think of his last name.
Two guys on my dynasty team. You guys are.
I saw Vidal's listed as the RB3 going into the season. They released expected depth chart. I'm saying Roman Wilson, but if we go Pearsall, I'm good with it.
We got 5 seconds. Oh. Let's go Pearsall.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's that pick that if Ayuk is gone, which I don't think he will be, that will be absolutely shooting up in value, and we could trade him for. We could trade Pearsall if we don't want to keep him for someone that was taken in, let's say, 9th round, who is more safe value. That's just how it would go. So it is fine, and and with your last pick in the draft, you're okay if it's a miss. You're,
to me, just
going for the upside.
Roman is the draft capital because it's a first round rookie receiver versus a third round in a much better offense. So yeah, and I mean you're a 49er fan, so yeah, Pearsall.
All right.
I got a question for you guys. Yep. So out of all these people left on the ADP list, we can all see who is going to be the most spent FOB player on. Like who do you think is going to be spent the most? Like who are people going to be spending the most FOB to acquire out of this list?
Demario Douglas.
And maybe 2-part answer: season long, and then for week 1.
Demario Douglas plays Cincinnati in week 1.
I would say Demario Douglas is a great week 1 answer. I don't think he's long. I don't think long term that's the answer.
Forget that they don't do 2024 on there. I guess of the guys currently left, I could see a lot of guys like Lee was talking about earlier in the draft when he was talking about maybe taking Ingram just for trade bait. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that need a tight end without knowing Hunter Henry's schedule. There's nobody else really on the Patriots that are demanding targets and especially end zone targets. I could see Hunter Henry having a week 1 where, he gets into the end zone once, maybe has 5 catches for 54 yards or something like that, and then ends up, in a PPR league, look at that, 17.4 points. I need to jump on that. That would be my pick of them just because of like target demand. If we're talking about like pure upside that could be shown, I would say Marvin Mims could surpass. We were just talking about Troy Franklin. It could be Cortland Sutton as the wide receiver 1. Marvin Mims could be the wide receiver 2 ahead of Troy Franklin. And I think that even past week 1, if we see the snap share leaning his direction, he has such crazy athleticism that he really could pop off, be that guy, and end up being the big waiver wire ad that everyone wished they drafted at the end of the round.
Yeah. I think week 1, I got to go Roman Wilson. Week 1. But season long, it's going to be one of these quarterbacks. It's going to be J.J. McCarthy. It's going to be, who knows, Justin Fields down the line. Like, man, it almost makes me wonder how valuable it is snagging potentially even a third quarterback at these late rounds.
No, it's redraft, bro. I feel like you're in too much of a dynasty mindset. There's no such thing as
conceptually, it's just like, wait a second. There's like math that doesn't add up in my head because the potential value of that is there. Like, if they happen to blow up, that's somebody you could trade for like a top tier.
If you or anybody out there thinks that that third guy, like potentially that you would grab with your last pick, has that much potential, wait to take your first quarterback until later. Grab your floor player and with a later round pick and keep stacking at wide receiver and running back. And then go and grab a late round quarterback paired with the guy that you truly believe that you can get in the last round that will pop off. Mason Beck, you just put in a $20 bet to win $320 for Bo Nix to be the offensive rookie of the year. If you have that kind of faith, go take Bo Nix with the last pick. He will be there for you. Yeah. And then, you can go and grab a guy that has a sturdy floor like Lawrence in the 11th or 12th round, So, my bad, Mason. All right. You didn't bet on anything. No one take our, we are 100 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah.
Don't place your bets based on our drunk bets here, I guess.
It was a Great Gamblers podcast. You mixed it up. You just,
I will say, Mason at the beginning of the podcast, like, I doubled down. I put my bet on Bo Nix.
Hey, man, I went to Vegas and threw that money on Bo Nix. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you were physically in Vegas? But, Mason, you were physically in Vegas when you put this bet down?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely nobody listen to Mason right now. There's no way you can't be max level drunk when you're in Vegas making bets on Bo Nix to be rookie of the year. All right, that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for joining us. We have concluded the draft. We are going. Oh, Evan, get out of it. Put yourself on a pick for 1 second. There you go. Roman Wilson. Hey, that was an auto pick. That was you. Yeah, all right. So we are going to be back at it next week. We'll be covering, drop a comment. Come and let us know what you want us to talk about next week. If it's plausible at all, we'll hit up the topic.
What if we switch teams?
I say it was surprisingly like amicable. I think all of us were like agreeable. Yeah. Maybe next time we don't do the other team can make your pick for you because we were all like, no, we're not letting.
I was more afraid of that.
It's too big of a risk to let happen. Even though I like
some sort of tiebreaker, but I do think that we got along way too well, and me and Mason were just talking about it privately. Like, I can't believe we were on the same page as much as we were. We really didn't even have any.
I honestly can't believe it with Dan either. Like we were
100%. I mean, look at our team. We have one singular rookie on our team. I can't believe I got out of this draft doing that.
But you let me pick the guys that I wanted earlier on in the draft. So like even
that's fine. I am okay with settling for one rookie on my team, our team, compared to your regular 4 to 5 rookies on a team. In the dynasty,
how do we have the old draft up? I wish I had the old draft up. That'd be funny.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say we can definitely do the same format. We can switch it around, see if it, we stir up a little bit more of an argument.
Yeah.
And we can change what it is if we end up running out the clock or truly can't agree on a player. But yeah, I really do think that. Okay, we didn't actually recap the teams here. At quarterback, Mason and Lee have Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. At wide receiver, they have Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, Kenneth Walker, Zamir White, Jalen Warren, Tyjae Spears, and Jerome Ford at running back. And their backup wide receivers, Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks, and Ricky Pearsall. For me and Evan's team, we got Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson because we punted to the 12th round for quarterback. But we start off the running backs, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Brooks, and Zach Moss. At wide receiver, we got Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, Joshua Palmer, and I'm drunk, boys. Jahan Dotson. And then at tight end, we got Evan Ingram. So I think overall it's a pretty even match because I do think that our running backs vastly outweigh your running backs.
Yeah.
I would say
vastly.
You got one guy.
But your RB1 versus my RB1. How's Kenneth Walker versus Bijan?
You got one guy, and what did they rank last year? What were the rankings versus last year?
With Arthur Smith giving Bijan Robinson as many red zone touches as Cordarrelle Patterson, and I think only there was like 3 more than Jonnu Smith. Let's be real. Like Bijan is already being talked about in the CMC role. He is, even if he's not CMC, if he's 80% of CMC, he is way outperforming Kenneth Walker, who every single year has missed at least 2 games. I think Kenneth Walker is not reliable. Zach Charbonnet is a talent that will take more away from him, and that's not the case with Bijan and Tyler Algier. And Kirk Cousins is a statue. He's going to be dumping the ball off a whole bunch. And then RB2, Derrick Henry versus Zamir White, similar type of role. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, though.
Yeah.
He is in the
How old is Derrick Henry again?
What? How has he done every year that he's not injured?
And normally, when does that drop off come at running back?
28.
Who is there? And how many running backs in the NFL are Derrick Henry?
Yeah.
A whole ass 6'2", 247. That's not. He's the dude. He is the dude that is going to break the norms in the NFL. He has been signed to a big contract by the team who runs the ball the most in the NFL the last 4 years. And he is the running back who has ran the ball the most times every year, 4 out of the 5 last years. So
Tyjae Spears was on the field more than him last year.
Let's be clear, though. What we're saying is Derrick Henry versus Zamir White. Are you making the case for Zamir White over Derrick Henry?
Yes. In fantasy this year, yes. I can make that case.
I will take that bet.
Yes.
100 times over.
Yeah. How much? I mean, how many bananas, Lee? How many bananas?
All right. So let's, again, obviously that's going out on a limb, but I would not be shocked to see that straight up. But let's go 2, 3, 4 running backs for the season.
Yeah. So Jalen Warren versus DeAndre Swift. I will say that's the biggest. I'll say that's the closest margin because the Steelers coaches have openly talked about running with the hot hand. They intentionally did not re-sign Najee Harris. They didn't give him the 5th-year extension, even though that was there for him. They decided, we're going to move forward with the guys that we have. didn't give Jaylen Warren or Najee a contract. So it truly could go either way. But Jaylen Warren, more explosive, more efficient than Najee Harris for sure. However, DeAndre Swift, no slouch in that department either. For sure, the best pass catcher on the team. Talked about it. I do not think that Caleb Williams is going to check down a whole lot, and that's where the struggle will lie. Russell Wilson, though, also not a guy that's known to check down a whole ton outside of Denver. Denver, it wasn't checkdowns even. It was designed passes to the running back. They had the highest targets to their running back position. And that's not just Russell Wilson checking down, because he never did that in Seattle. So I think that's Sean Payton coming in and not necessarily Russell Wilson's MO.
Maybe. I think he's become more risk adverse in his older age, which a lot of us do in general, just human nature.
Right.
But I would, again, I think we have a clear, obviously based on how we draft, I think we have a clear advantage at wide receiver. But I would go 2, 3, 4, our running backs. So we've got Spears, Warren, and Zamir White versus Jonathan Brooks, Derrick Henry, and DeAndre Swift.
Well, no, so you said 3, 4, 5?
DeAndre Swift is going to, in week 15,
2, 3, 4.
DeAndre Swift's going to throw up 2 points. So
2, 3, 4.
Henry beats Zamir White for sure. I will agree. Warren and Swift are closer than I would, prefer to take them at the ADP. Brooks vastly outperforms Tyjae Spears. There's no world where they just signed Tony Pollard to that contract and don't use him in year one outside of injury. They just signed him to such a big contract. And it's like a decent amount guaranteed in the first 2 years. They are going to prioritize Tony Pollard.
Disagree. And I don't think we see Brooks really kick in until after week 6. So if we're going total points, not points per game, that's why it would be total points for our 2, 3, 4 versus total points for your 2, 3.
Yeah. So why don't you think that?
For Brooks?
Yeah.
When did he tear his ACL? Wasn't it December?
So I'm putting it up on the screen right now.
Pretty sure it was December.
Jonathan Brooks to be eased into training camp. Understandable. Ease him into training camp. But you're already being eased into training camp, and we are 60 days away from preseason.
You have no reason to rush him. If you're the Panthers, you're not expecting to win. He's a guy that you do see is going to be.
You are in the NFC South. Anyone can win.
Yeah, and they brought in guys to win.
When was it? It was late November. He tore his ACL in late November, and you're expecting him to come back and be a big part of the offense in September?
Average recovery time is 9 to 12 months. He is a rookie. He's very young. This is his first ACL injury. He can do it in 10 months, which puts him exactly at September.
There's no reason to rush him. Chuba Hubbard was pretty good when he played. Do what?
It's 9 to 12 months is the average recovery time. He's young. They can win their division. That enough, along with, having a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, that all is going to weigh in. There's no head coach out there that gets a shot at being the head coach that is like, you know what, I need to really hold back my best players for the long run, unless you are guaranteed a long contract there.
If you're a first year, you have a runway. If you're Canales, you have a runway. You're not a coach about to be fired, and there's no reason to rush him.
But even you talked about it. His runway is more so changing Bryce Young than changing the running game. They can just throw in the guy that they just got because he's clearly the best talent on the team. And, even if you say, I just definitely disagree with 6 weeks into the season being the mark where he starts taking on a full workload, with him being already seeming ready to take on, training camp. Even if he's being eased in, he's eased in training camp. He's got at least 40 days, over a month to be eased in by the time we hit the NFL season. So I think at most, I would say 3 to 4 weeks before he takes over. And I will take Jonathan Brooks at full force from week 5 to week 18 over Tyjae Spears in week 1 to week 18.
We shall see, but I completely disagree.
We can disagree. And then the last guy on the running back side is Zach Moss. So even Jonathan Brooks for us takes a while. We got Zach Moss to start the season. I know me and Lee agree on Zach Moss having success. I also agree that Jerome Ford is one of the best values in the draft, but I think that is because he is going to start the season strong, and then Nick Chubb will take over a more predominant role. So I take Zach Moss over Jerome Ford there. Any disagreements?
No.
I mean, I think they're pretty equal. I think there's clearly more competition for Moss because again, I don't see Chubb having a big role early. But I think Moss probably, I don't know, because all the vacated goal line carries of Kareem Hunt. So I don't know. I think they're pretty much even.
I definitely disagree with that. I think if you took Zach Moss, you would make a very strong argument for Zach Moss over Jerome Ford.
I've came around on Jerome Ford a lot in the last few weeks. I think he's probably he's one of the best value late running backs there is, and I think his ADP is going to go up a lot over training camp as it becomes more apparent that Chubb is getting eased in.
I mean, last week I made that argument for Jerome Ford, saying that I think he will move from I think it was the 11th round that Fantasy Pros had him ranked at, and I said that he would jump into the 9th round, and that I was willing to take him in the 9th round. I am still willing to take him at the 9th round, except when Zach Moss is available. I would definitely take Zach Moss over Jerome Ford. Let's move on to the wide receivers, though. Just so you know, we got to talk about it all. You guys got Chase, obviously Jamar Chase over Devontae Adams. That's a clear dub for you guys in this category. Chris Olave versus Metcalf, I will say I think is pretty even. I don't think that's a clear win for you guys at all. I think that Olave has not proven himself. I think he's proven himself. I think Derek Carr has not proven himself with his connection with him, and that's the main concern. I think Geno Smith and Sam Howell could have a better connection with DK Metcalf than Chris Olave does with the Derek Carr. Mason?
Skip me.
Yes. And Lee's got his head down, so we'll take that as scratch.
No, I was going to say, I think I like DK, but I just feel like the ceiling is quite a bit higher for Olave, especially with the lack of competition. I think their quarterback play is pretty comparable. Maybe Sam Howell surprises people, but we'll see. I would take Carr over Geno, but who's going to be the second target getter? You've got a first-round wide receiver coming into his second year. You have a Tyler Lockett who might need a walker out there, but he's still there. He's still getting paid. He's still going to get competition. He's still going to get targets. Both of those guys are clearly going to have more targets than Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, A.T. Perry. Olave is the vocal point of his offense. Sorry?
I said Juwan Johnson's got that injury, though. He could be a while before he returns. That was even in the reports. They just said it'll be a while before he returns, and usually it's pretty positive. I'll say Seattle threw the ball at the 5th highest rate in the league last year, whereas New Orleans was at the 17th highest rate. It was a difference of 4 percentage points, a little over 4%. Over the course of the year, I do think that DK Metcalf returns a little bit more to form. I think he had a bad year. I think Chris Olave could absolutely have some positive regression in terms of his connection with Carr downfield. And I agree with you that for sure there is less competition in that wide receiver core. However, I do think that overall the Seattle offense is a better offense. Like, I like Kenneth Walker more than I like Kamara. I like Metcalf more than I like Olave. I like JSN more than I like Shaheed. I like Tyler Lockett more than A.T. Perry. And, if I probably would put Juwan Johnson and Noah Fant on the same pedigree, but Juwan Johnson's got an injury that has not been well reported. So I don't have a lot of faith in him having early season return. Maybe he comes back later in the year, and maybe Olave gets a heavier target share the first half of the season because of that. But overall, I do think Metcalf and Olave are pretty even keel. Waddle's got to step up over Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a Deshaun Watson problem, not an Amari Cooper problem. But I'll give you the edge on Waddle for sure. But then we go to our fourth wide receiver. I would definitely take Sutton over Gabe Davis. I would say Palmer and Cooks are relatively on the same plane. Cooks has been undervalued his entire career. Joshua Palmer, didn't do what people wanted him to do as a young wide receiver stepping into injury situations where he could have really taken over and dominated. But overall, at this stage in the career, we got Brandon Cooks at 30 years old right now, Joshua Palmer at 24. I do like Herbert more than I like Dak Prescott, and I think they're basically in the same role where they're the field stretcher, wide receiver 2 on the team. So
where I would disagree there is Herbert over Dak as a real life quarterback, probably not in fantasy this year. Jim Harbaugh loves to run the ball. Everything they've done shows they're going to be a running team. Dallas has no running backs. They were very pass heavy last year. That's where the difference for that wide receiver 2 comes in for me. And I like Palmer more than Cooks long term.
Right. I mean, so like the change at the helm is going to be a big key there. I agree that, you look at Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they run the ball the vast majority of the time, both offenses, no matter where they've been. Chargers last year, they were at 61% pass attempts. 61% of their offensive plays were pass attempts. And then Dallas, 59.29. Chargers were at 6. Dallas at 11. I do think that is likely to flip-flop there. I think Dallas will take a step up and Chargers will take a step down. I just do think that there's going to be the efficiency there to make up for it, especially with, CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb. He will run all routes, and he will get fed no matter what part of the field he's on. Then even, Jake Ferguson's not like a downfield target, but he's going to demand more targets than Hayden Hurst is. The wide receiver 2 for the Chargers is going to be used, that play action, downfield threat is going to be real. I also think that, Gus Edwards, as consistent as he's been in the NFL, it's not like he's going to be the guy that demands 250 plus rushing attempts. J.K. Dobbins can't stay on a field. And Vidal, who even knows what he's going to turn out to be? Yeah. So, I don't know. I would still take the chance that even though the Chargers are talking so heavily about running the ball, they have to throw. It's the NFL, it's going to be at least close to 50-50. And I do think that Herbert's good enough where if it's a run first team, they are going to take advantage of the opportunities they do get through the air. Yeah. All right. That's basically it. We have one more player to talk about, so I'm not going to skip it. But Dotson versus Pearsall, I'll take Dotson. I think, Lee, you were kind of on the same boat, but it was the last 2 picks of the draft. So you let Mason take that one. And would you agree, though?
I would. My only thing there is, and this is a little bit anecdotal, I think Pearsall's a little easier to drop if Ayuk doesn't get traded, if we don't see a roll early. I feel like Dotson's going to be a little harder to drop if he just shows anything at all. And I do like the flexibility of these last 2 players.
I feel like that kind of speaks to the point, though. Like, you think that Dotson – right. Okay.
Now, I think the ceiling, if Ayuk there, you'd rather have pieces of the San Francisco offense, but you want flexibility as well with those first couple of weeks and being able to drop guys. And generally, you don't draft a rookie wide receiver with that intention because it takes a little while. But I just feel like the San Francisco situation is unique.
That's kind of the part of me that, I don't think that if they don't move on from Ayuk, I don't think they're going to through the season. However, if you take a rookie wide receiver in a very efficient offense, there's always the room that they're going to grow into that offense. I think that those are the that I would hold on to rather than a third-year wide receiver. That, we've seen the ups and downs. If he comes out and it's a down year, then we're just going to move on. But if Dotson ends up being a hit because he is a talented first-round wide receiver, I'm happy holding on to Dotson for at least a few weeks before he goes. And again, if he truly looks terrible in the first 2-3 weeks, then we'll move on. But Dotson has the opportunity. All right. I didn't know. Apparently, the Civil War part was coming in the second half. That was coming after the draft, talking about the teams here. Evan, me and you did a great job of working together. Honestly, Lee and Mason did a great job of working together. Yeah. I think that's the whole threat of having the other team make your pick for you. That we're not letting that happen.
Maybe we switch teams and also change the rules next time. We'll figure it out.
We definitely need to do this again and switch teams. We always talk about how me and Lee are usually more on the same page, and you and Mason are a little bit more on the same page. And I think that maybe if we put it to the test, we'll see otherwise.
Yeah, maybe actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
So a lot left to come. We still got another 60 days left, and I am truthfully using our homie out here at Stadium Rant, our Titans brother, counting down the days with each jersey. Go give him a follow. Maximus Titan fan on X. Give him a follow. He's a great dude, puts out great content, and gives me the countdown to the NFL season. We're 60 days away. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming. Everyone, have a good week.
All right. Peace.